This conference will now be recorded.
Just for good measure, make sure that I've hit that recording when you start, Mayor.
Right. We're kind of waiting for Shannon to show up live here on camera. Shannon keeps us all in line, Eric, so we have to have her on this. There we go.
Sorry about that.
Well, it's not quite 7 yet, so hey, you're okay. I mean, 6:30, you're okay. It is now 6:30 p.m. Are we being recorded, Cynthia? Okay. This is a regular meeting of the Rhome City Council, Thursday, June the 10th. And it is via virtual on the thing. It's in accordance with the rules from the governor issued March 16th, 2020, and more recently extended June the 7th. We have an exception to not go person to person, so that's where we are. Okay, now we are we can now start our meeting. Let's get all this going on. We have public presentations. Well, let's go ahead and get our quorum. Shannon, are we rushing you, or can you do that now?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Excuse me. Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember McCabe,
Here.
Councilmember Ty,
Here.
Councilmember Priest,
Here.
Councilmember Eason,
Hello.
and Councilmember Majors.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We'll move on to public presentations and input. Shannon, do you have anyone to speak?
Yes, ma'am. I have two speakers that have signed up. The first one is Joe Hernandez. So, Mr. Hernandez, when you're ready, you can begin.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Joe Hernandez. I reside on School Road. 2 of the 7, had an interesting read the other day. 2 of the 7 habits of highly effective city councilors is to refrain from publicly criticizing an individual official, employee, and respect the city administrator's leadership, as well as the other leaders and staff that operate the city. In the ridiculous 8-hour marathon meeting, which the city staff was expected to return back to work early the next morning, the council member's behavior was appalling and very unprofessional. A council member personally attacked a department head, questioned his integrity, and attacked volunteers for not planting flowers to her standards. She implied the department head was conducting personal favors for other city council members by repairing roads in their subdivision. Instead of grandstanding and trying to humiliate the department head, she could have simply asked questions for justification for road repairs. The same council member was laughing the whole meeting and acting in a very unprofessional manner, to the point the city attorney had to intervene twice to tell her she was out of line. That kind of behavior is why the citizens are not engaged with city politics. This city council has to figure it out on how to work together for the betterment of the city and its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Deborah B Craft. Miss B Craft, when you're ready.
Thank you. I'm Deborah B Craft. I live on 2nd Street. And I want to say this as nice as I can, but these meetings need to be shorter. It would help shorten the time, sometimes by 2 hours. I've timed it. If everyone on council in the city would only talk about the issues on the agenda and not their feelings, not their history with, let's say, TxDOT, HR, school, a career with bonds, or how long or how many websites they looked at to get the information that they want to share. Just give us the information that is relevant to the issues that's on the agenda. 15 minutes of telling us what you did in the past or what your work history was or what your feelings are are just dragging the meetings out, making it seem like you just want to hear yourself talk to make yourself feel important. You are important. You were voted or hired to do the best for the city. And subjecting your citizens to this kind of useless information is not doing your job. If it's a yes or no question, then please just say yes or no. If I want more information after that, I'll ask for more. And it is very unprofessional for a councilman to call another councilman names and belittle them during a meeting. And they were called down for that also. Thank you, and have a good but short meeting, please. Try it. You might like it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor, that is all I have for public presentations.
Okay, then we'll move right on to the announcements that y'all guys have put on the agenda. Today is the June 20, 2021 events, and Saturday, June the 12th is Splash Days at the Rhome Fire Department. And I'm sorry, I don't have the hours, but it's kind of like 11 to 3 or 4. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And
11
then
to 2.
11 to 10. 11 to 2. Okay. And y'all guys get your swimsuits ready and go join Daryl. He's going to be the first one in. So we'll go from there. Also, and again, to Deborah and to Joe, I would like to apologize to those who attended our previous meeting. Hopefully that will never happen again. The city administrator is working with me to ensure we just schedule 2-hour meetings, and they might morph over a little, but not much. So I ask that you keep that in mind for this meeting, and let's have decorum and respect. Like one of the speakers said, just get to the point. Also, thanks to the veterans for a beautiful Memorial Day program. We had special speakers, Lane Aiken, J.D. Clark, Stephen Wren, Gabe Arnold, hopefully I'm not leaving anybody out, and Scotland Stewart, who sings a cappella, and he can sing anything he wants to. It is absolutely wonderful. And I'm sorry, somebody.
Yep.
Are we through? Okay, and there'll be some veterans event, vendor event, July the 3rd at Marsh and Margarita from 11 to 3. If you're a library person, the library has new summer hours, Fridays from 11 to 5. And if you have little ones, check out the Rhome Library page for information on the summer reading program. If no one has anything else, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda this time has the minutes of the City Council regular session dated May the 27th. Do I hear any conversation or a motion to approve this? Any motion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
And do I hear a second? And Elaine's got her hand up, Michelle. So this consent agenda, the minutes have been approved. We'll move on to the monthly staff reports and board meetings.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes,
We need to actually take a vote on that,
on the staff reports?
on the minutes. We just
Oh,
had
on the minutes.
second.
We got a motion a second, we just didn't get a vote.
And we've lost the mayor.
Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Shannon, can you do a roll call vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem McCabe.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Ty.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Priest.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Eason.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Majors.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Mayor,
City
if I,
Administrator, I'm sorry, Sam.
if we can skip back one, I have one announcement that I'd like to make before we move
Oh.
forward.
Okay.
And my announcement is I would like to thank Terry and Elaine Priest for the plant sale fundraising they had for the beautification of Rome. Understand they raised quite a bit of money and they worked very hard. So thank you, Terry and Elaine.
And I second that. Thank you, guys. And we'll move then into the monthly staff reports. And Cynthia, I think you have an announcement to make to start with.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I wanted to thank the selection committee, Councilmember Majors, Councilmember Ty, and we had a couple of myself and a couple of outside folks come on, subject matter experts, and that's the former police chief in the city of Louisville and the current police chief in Lake Worth. And the council for, authorizing that selection committee process. And I think we got a great candidate out of that. So I would like to introduce to you your police chief, Eric Beavis.
Thank you so much, Administrator Northrup. Hey, y'all. Madam Mayor, I appreciate you having me here tonight, fellow council members. I would like to thank Sergeant Brody Brown, the interim chief, for all his work. He did an amazing job of leading this department in the interim. And I would like to thank you guys for having the faith and trust in me to lead this department. And I look forward to leading this department into the future and make it the premier law enforcement agency in Wise County. So I thank y'all very much, and I'll be here for any questions in the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Wonderful, welcome.
And hopefully all of these faces you see here will knock on your door in the next week or two and say hello. But we are glad to have you.
Yes, I do. I've met a couple of you, and I do look forward to meeting each of you in person, because I'm a lot better in person than this.
Well, hey, not bad. We'll keep that in mind.
Yes, ma'am.
And
thank you.
okay, and then we have department staff reports. Does anyone want to pull anything off of that? Also, we have the minutes of the regular Parks and Rec Board meeting of May the 6th. Does anybody want any knowledge on that one? Well, geez, y'all are easy tonight. We might get through, much quicker than we planned. We're going now to step out of this meeting and resume into a public hearing. It is 6:42 p.m. and we're beginning our public hearing. Rhome City Council to conduct a public hearing to consider a request for a carport, legal property being acres 1.001, Lot 8, Block D, in Alliance Estates, Phase 2, Abstract A-743, Smith CSL, also known as 1107 Meadowbrook Drive, Rome, Texas, 76078. Do we have anyone that wants to speak about this? Shannon, do you have anyone?
I have responses that I have received since we sent it out in the mail. And then I also believe that the applicant is online. So would you like me to read the responses, or do you want to speak with the applicant first?
Joe, are you online somewhere? Yeah, Joe, can you hear me? Your phone is, you're on mute. Maybe we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can, yes, sir.
Okay.
So you want to give a quick resume of what we're here for to hopefully approve you a carport?
Well, the main reason I came is when we bought this property, we moved out here to Rome. We lived in Saginaw for 32 years, so we moved here to Rome to kind of get out of the city. And when we bought the property from Miracle Properties out here, they just like everyone on this block, they told us that we could build what we wanted to. So I didn't know there was a problem with building the carport to start with. So I proceeded it. And what I didn't understand is because we already had 4 poles in the concrete out there, and they were there for a month while we were waiting on the iron to come, you know, for the roof and everything. And nobody said nothing. So in the meantime, my mother had passed away, and we had to go to Missouri, and we were gone for a little over a week. And then when we got back home, we had a tag on our front door. It said we didn't have a permit and no carport on it. Nobody's signature on the tag. We don't know who put it there to start with. And then what I told Paula that we got back that Saturday night, and I told her, I said, well, Monday morning, go down to the city office and pay them $150 for a permit, which she did, and they gave her a receipt for it and everything. So then the proceedings started as we are right now. But I mean, you should have pictures of my carport, my property there. I built it to match my house. It matches my garage. I mean, it's gray. It's got a gray roof on it, metal roof, and I mean, it's a beautiful carport. And I have all my neighbors around here supporting me. I had them sign petitions, plus the ones that melt things in and everything. So I mean, I'd appreciate if somebody let me keep it because it cost us a lot of money. I mean, we spent like $5,000 for this. And if we'd been more aware of it, we would have did it in a different frame. A different way. I mean, we wasn't sure how we were supposed to do this. Nobody, they just told us to build whatever we wanted. I mean, and you can ask anybody in this neighborhood, they'll tell you the same thing. They told them the same thing. That's why everybody's backing me on this, because they're in that same position, you know. So now they know what they got to do if they get ready to do theirs. I mean, and I guess that's all I got to say. I apologize for doing something wrong that I didn't know I was doing.
Well, we apologize for you not being alert to what we needed, and now you've worked so hard with us. Shannon, what kind of comments do you have?
I'm going to read the responses that I received, and in your packet, I did include the petition that Mr. Green was speaking about. Responses that I received, the first one was from Mr. Green, and of course he's in favor of it, and his comments were, I was told I could build what I wanted when I bought the property from Miracle Homes. Didn't know about all the permits required, but I am aware now. Second one is from also co-owner Paula Lampley. She's also in favor, and her comments were, didn't know Rhome required permits in this area until I received the orange notice on her door. Next one is from Darlene Maddox, which is just a couple doors down at 1119 Meadowlark, and she's in favor. And her comments, this owner has made significant improvements to his property, enhancing the aesthetic of both his property and the neighborhood as a whole. The carport blends seamlessly with the other structures on the lot and appears to be professionally constructed. It also appears to me to be proportionally aligned and compatible in design with the house and garage. My husband and I just live 3 houses down from the property and have no objection, and in fact, encourage the granting of the carport request. Next one is from Frederick Thierot at 1102 Meadowlark, and he is also in favor of the request, and his comments, acceptable under the following conditions: professional compliant construction, design colors consistent with existing structures, maintains acceptable setbacks from street. Next one is from Danette and Johnny Willis at 1111 Meadowlark Drive. They're also in favor, and their comments were, I don't understand why the city would have a problem with a property owner putting up a carport on their own property that they paid for. Leave them be and let them be responsible for what they own. You shouldn't dictate what others can do. And then also today that were not in your packet, I received them this afternoon from Miss Deborah B Craft. She also wanted to state that even though she's not in the area, she is in favor of the carport. And then also I received one from Kevin Simpson at 1106 Sunrise Avenue, and he's in favor of the carport request. And his comments were, the structure is pleasant to see and well built. And Mayor, that concludes what I've received.
Okay, and Steve Knight, do you want to repeat what the P&Z is recommending? Steve, are you here?
No, I have no more comments, just our meeting.
Okay, and your recommendation was to approve the carport. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we're going to get out of the public hearing and resume back to the regular agenda. And under new business item F, it is now 6:50 p.m. and we are resuming the regular agenda. The first item on the regular agenda is discussion and any necessary action regarding a request for a carport, legal property, like we just said, being acres 1.001, Lot 8, Block D, Alliance Estates, PH 2, Abstract A 743 Smith, CSL, also known as 1107 Meadowbrook Drive, Rome, Texas. Do I hear a motion that we vote on this? Ashley made the motion, Michelle second. So Shannon, you want to do the fun thing?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Pro Tem McCabe?
Aye.
Councilmember Ty?
Aye.
Councilmember Priest?
Aye.
Councilmember Eason?
Aye, Mr. Green, your carport looks very nice.
Thank you.
And Councilmember Majors?
Aye, and I agree with Sam. It's your carport and your property is beautiful.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so Joe, that means all you got to do now is keep the permit lady happy, and I'm not sure what that is. Cynthia, what does he have to do now? Is he clear, or does he need to do any other steps?
They have submitted the building permit and the fee. So they've got, I mean, normally they'd have to do the building permit and then, all of that, but they've already done that.
So he can go home and sleep, right? Okay, we appreciate you being patient with us, Joseph. Thanks so much. Okay.
I want to thank everybody for helping us in this matter too. It's greatly appreciated.
We try to do our best. Once we harass, we try to unharass. So we appreciate you moving to our city. Okay, we're going to move to item G, update and discussion regarding the 2021-22 preliminary taxable values. And the city administrator will go over the numbers here.
Thank you, Mayor. You all have in your packet the graph that I put in there. I mean, we received the preliminary values from Washington County CAD. They did come in a little bit higher than previous year, and at 173,54967. I did put a graph in there. I did want to point out on that graph the 2020 items are, if we have people that are online, if you could go ahead and mute, because I'm getting some background. So they did, you can see there from 2018 to 2019, the certified values, 2018 was like 46, 2019 was around 167 million. I am talking millions here. And then from 2019 to 2020, the values were relatively flat, and they are reflected there. So 167 to 167, I think there was about a $500,000 difference, a little bit of an increase. And then from 2020, again, that 167.9 is a certified value, and the 173.2 is a preliminary value. We do get the certified values approximately July 26th. And from there, we'll be able to, right now, the budget that we're developing, and we'll be talking about in the next agenda item, we'll present the first look at the budget after tonight on the first meeting in July, which I believe is July 8th. And just want to emphasize that those will be based on the preliminary estimates. So if there's any questions, this was just for information.
Okay, hey, so we got some money coming in. We'll see how much Cynthia will know at the end of July. And I bet she'll share that with all of us. Okay, we're going to move on to item H. Discussion and any necessary action regarding council priorities for fiscal year 21-22 budget. Cynthia, this happens to be you again.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. What I wanted to do tonight, the department heads, I have given you the budget schedule a couple of times over the last several weeks. And what I wanted to do tonight, they have been working on developing their budgets, essentially with the idea that we want to remain maintenance and operation as flat as we can, and really only come forward with some of those new requests that we really need. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We will continue to refine this as we go forward with the process, but the purpose of showing you these items is to really kind of get your perspective and direction on what your priorities are in relation to some of these new items that we're going to be looking at. So this chart that you see before you, you will see fiscal year 2021. That's what the budget was for each of the various departments. And this is general fund, by the way. That's what the budget was. And then for fiscal year 2022, this is what the request is. That's that first column. And then you'll see the difference or the delta in that fourth column. And then you'll see some detail in the last column. So for example, administration, our budget last year was $977,426. The request is $1,026,876. That's a difference, an increase of $49,455. And so the detail for the reason for that difference talks about the city hall lease, which is $15,000, salary market adjustments and COLA, health insurance, and legal expenses. So that's kind of what summarizes the reason for that increase. In building and development, you can see that the difference, there's an increase of about 7808, and primarily that is due to the substandard demo that we want to include in the budget. So if we have, we've talked about this, if we do identify and have to take action on a substandard structure that we would have to demo, that will cost us upfront money. Of course, we would put a lien on that property and try to get that money back, but we have to pay for it up front. And you can see court, they actually were able to reduce their budget, and part of that is from potential savings from our new court software that we're onboarding, net data that we've talked about in the past several months. Police, they've got an increase of approximately 49,000. Again, salary market adjustments, cost of living increases, vehicle leasing, new radio system, and each of the departments will come back and give you some more detail on the detail. Fire, the increase is around a little over 100,000, and that's for the additional shift work and equipment. Again, they will detail that. Parks and Rec, the increase is about $2,300, and that is going for the family park, those tall lights, and utility cost increases, and the new mower, which is approximately 15,000. So you see the total increase there for new items there is approximately $322,800. I went ahead and I categorized some of those requests by initial requests by type. So essentially 49% represent equipment requests, 27% represent salary market adjustments and cost of living increases, 60% represents the city hall lease, 5% represents the city hall lease, 60% represents vehicles, and 3% represent the code. And at this point, I'm going to ask each department head to come on and talk through some of the details of their specific requests in their budget. So first up is our fire chief, Chief Fitch. Are you on the line?
Yes, ma'am, I'm on the line.
Okay, can you see my screen? Are you able to talk? I mean, I know you know it, you have it, you did your budget, but if you want to talk through that, that'd be great.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Council. As she was saying, just kind of explaining a little bit. If you notice on the request, it says shift work. To kind of give you a little back history real quick, we have one person per shift as of this budget. And we did that because of a coverage situation with our call volume being during the day is our main call volume between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. So that was our first shift work that we got on this budget. This shift work we're requesting here is a second person, which allows us not only to improve coverage, but it also allows us to start working on meeting those, going from 4 minutes for waiting on guys to get to the station before the vehicle pulls out in 4 minutes. Now we're starting to look at 2 minutes and a minute and a half. So having that second person on shift work allows us to cut 2 or 3 minutes off of our response time. So instead of, arriving, like say in Bywell in 9 minutes, we can be arriving in Bywell in 6 minutes. So that's what the main thing on the request for the shift work for this year is, just allow us to get out of the station a little faster and have that better coverage and that quicker response. As far as the equipment, I think we have a little bit of discrepancies in numbers from the first slide to this slide. So we'll have to do some updating on that because we were only requesting somewhere in the 75, 76,000 range. But as far as equipment, the radios and pagers are similar to the apparatus. It's more of a replacement plan. It goes back to that theory I've always had since became chief, was we don't want to wait 10 years and then all of a sudden have to buy like 30 radios. So this is one of those situations where it's just that continual replacement plan, 4 or 5 things at a time each year instead of getting hit with it all at one time. So that would be your radios and pagers. And that also too is just because of attrition. I mean, the newest radios we have at the moment are 5 years old. So it's just developing that replacement plan and getting it more on a current basis. Bunker lockers, that's just due to growth and also due to the facilities that we're kind of having to work around. We just need a few more sets of bunker lockers for outside in the base. And then the bunker gear, I would like to say I'm not requesting 96 sets of bunker gear.
Sorry
So
about
that. No, I don't even know where I could put 96 sets. Maybe I can put them in PD and underneath the water tower. But as far as the bunker gear, again, that goes to like the radios and the pagers, the same system there. It's just a continual rotation, annual rotation of gear, just so we don't get stuck with that big, huge purchase. For example, a great example would be the SCBAs. You know, it was a 20-year period in there before we got the new SCBAs last year, the
And what does
self-contained
that
breathing
mean?
apparatus.
What
I'm
is
sorry?
the initials? What are they for?
I apologize. It's the self-contained breathing apparatus. It's the air packs we wear. And
Good.
we went out on a note with that for 15 packs and 30 bottles. Well, that was kind of what we're trying to avoid in the future is, you know, that was a 20-year period that there were none purchased in that period. So then all of a sudden, after 20 years, you know, we're hit with over $100,000 note payment for it because we had to upgrade them. So that's what I'm trying to avoid when I'm looking at things like this as far as requests. And then the bunker gear, like I said, is the same thing, but that'll be 6 sets and not 96. It would be great to have 96 volunteers, but when you have a 30% decrease in volunteers over the last 10 years, and it's hard to recruit and retain volunteers right now, I don't think I'd ever fill up 96 sets of gear. And then the personal lockers, we just have no personal lockers inside. So let's say you were hanging out for 12 hours or like a good example would be splash days this Saturday. There's no place to put uniforms. You can't hang up your uniforms in a locker. You know, you can't hang up let's say you want to keep your wallet. You don't want to carry your wallet while you're on shifts in case you lose it, or your keys. There's no place to lock any of that stuff up. So there's no place for personal lockers. And then with that being said, with all the cancer initiatives and everything, we really, really encourage the guys leave their uniforms at work. So then that way they don't take that stuff home to their family. So we have washing machines here that they can wash it here and leave their uniforms. But at this time, it's hard to require that whenever you don't have those personal lockers. So that's some cancer initiatives we're looking at. So when you look at things like personal lockers, that's pushing towards those cancer initiatives to cut down on some of those things that they're really starting to, with all the carcinogens and everything and all the fires and stuff we fight with all the plastics and everything, it's really stuff they're really pushing over the last couple of years. Is there any questions on anything?
I have one. I have a question.
Yes.
Chief Fitch, the 26,500 for the shift work, so that you can have a second person on shift and reduce the response time.
Yes, sir.
Is that going to be enough to put us into a more favorable ISO rating?
It's a head start. We're getting there. I see the ISO. We completed the ISO survey from this last. They just completed it about 2 weeks ago, so we should be getting the results back pretty soon. At this point, I don't see us changing from a 4. The times when you start getting to a 3 is when you start getting those paid departments. And to explain real quick, for us going from a 4 to a 3 is a savings for everybody on their insurance. Us going from a 3 to 2 is a savings on your insurance. So those are things that'll come as the city keeps progressing to more, to satisfy the community needs and to go with growth. There is a chance we got close to a 3 on this year due to all the training we do and all the records. We're a little bit behind on the water aspect because I think it's 35% or 40% based off of your water supply and stuff. So that does hurt us on ISO rating. But hopefully we made some of that up in the training aspect, the call times, call volume. It helped a lot that we haven't missed a call since April of 2015, which not too many departments can say that are volunteer. So I think we're going to be close, but I think those little things like improving the water system, which Public Works is doing a great job on working on that, and the council's working, doing a great job trying to get that improved. Those little things right there is going to really start bumping us up on the ISO rating.
Thank you.
I have a question, Fitch. I would love for myself to sit down with you and go over some of, I guess, training to find out more about what you actually need and a little bit about the volunteers and, I guess what you do and what you need in the future. I guess going to getting one more person on a shift to go to take of what you said, it's for 4 minutes, I guess 4 minutes now to 2 minutes in the future. And what you just said, it takes 9 minutes to get to Bywell, and just seeing the fire that was just posted, I didn't know it took that long to get out to Bywell. So
there's a lot of factors in there too, but the biggest factor is if you have people at the station, my requirement when we have 2 people, we're going to be that they have to be dressed, ready for that call, in the vehicle and out the door in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Gotcha.
Whereas right now there's some volunteer departments that tell their guys 10 minutes, as long as you get the truck out the door in 10 minutes. I pushed for 4 minutes, which if you look at our annual report on EMS, actually we've got, and I guess this kind of hurts me on requesting something, but as far as EMS calls in the city limits, our average for last year was 1 minute and 59 seconds. And for fire calls, it was 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Hence the reason there, though, is usually you're waiting for that extra guy. You want to have the 2 or 3 guys on the truck when you pull out on a fire, and then plus the vehicles just take longer to get going and get warmed up in the whole 9 yards.
No, I think it's amazing on your part. So I would just like to, hear more about it and what you need going forward. So thank you for what you do. And side note, I love the article in the newspaper about the graduation, the student that went to the fire prior to his graduation, so nothing against, but that was really sweet that he took the time on his graduation day. So, well,
we appreciate that. And his name was Dusty Hilliard. He's been with us for 2.5 months now, and he's been under all the training and stuff we're doing. And I'll pass that along to him. We were excited about it too. I know the council and the mayor and everybody's excited about positive information and coming out about the city. And we thought that was a great article, and we're proud of him, and we appreciate you mentioning something.
Yes. I mean, on his graduation day to take that time out and go. So that was pretty amazing. Not little kid, but kid. Girl kid. So.
And just for the record, we don't take anybody under 18. He was 18. So.
I imagine. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions? And as far as the meetings, anybody wanting to meet with me, my door is always open. I'd love for y'all to meet with me. Matter of fact, I get lonely sometimes because I feel like not enough people are asking me for meetings. If I need to come knock on your door, I'll come knock on your door too.
Chief Fitch.
Yes.
So I have a question about your radios. I see that y'all want radios and the PD, they also want radios. Do y'all get together and purchase those together, or do y'all purchase them separately?
That's a possibility. And I did not mention that because I was going to let I didn't want to steal a little bit of Chief's thunder, and that might be something to look at. Chief and I have already discussed a little bit on that, and it could even be something where, since the fire's asking for radios for like the next 3 or 4 years, maybe we do, instead of like we're requesting 5, maybe we go up to 10 if PD is going to buy radios too, and then we can look at getting that better discounts, and we can go in on that type of stuff. But that would be something that we could look at if it came down to it. Plus, it also depends on how that's purchased. If it's going to be something that we're, hopefully going to be able to do out of budget. If we can't, if it's based off of a note, maybe the note so maybe instead of 5, we go 10, and then we do a bigger package and get a better price.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Sorry, I'm a little shy, but.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Appreciate
it. Thank you.
So moving on, and yes, to that, that is something that we have been having internal conversations about, potentially depending on the council's direction for what their priorities are, seeing what kind of economies of scale we can get with radio. So with that, here is the police department's detailed budget, and I think Beavis and potentially Sergeant Brown will be tag teaming on this. Chief?
Can hardly hear who's asking a question. Cynthia, was somebody asking, or was she just bleed over?
I didn't hear a question. I was introducing the chief. Chief Davis, you hear us?
I'm here. Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, council members. I'm going to go ahead and address the radio system first, since we're kind of coming off that with the Chief Fitch. He mentioned that they were in a position where they didn't want to replace all of their radios at once, and unfortunately, that's what we're having to do now. So I totally get where he's coming from. That's why we're asking for these radios. Our staffing level as it is now, we have officers that work alone overnight. And so I have an officer out there by himself on an island, and we now have radios failing. And if they need help, they're not going to get it when they need it. So it's an officer safety issue for me. And I actually experienced it myself when I went to lunch today. I took the admin vehicle and the radio failed. It started malfunctioning, making noise. I had to turn it off and use my cell phone to contact an officer. So that's why the radios are important for us. The vehicle leasing program, we're in a position now where we can maximize the life expectancy of these vehicles by assigning them to these officers. And an officer who is responsible solely for a vehicle, it's kind of like if you think the difference between somebody who rents their home versus somebody who owns their home. I think there's some exceptions to that, but most people that own their home are more apt to keep it up and maintain it in a more high level because they're responsible for it and they know how important that is. If we're able to do this by leasing 3 vehicles, we can assign these. That will give us the opportunity for a criminal investigations vehicle as well. And we can hold the officers accountable specifically for the wear and tear of their vehicles. And we expect them to last far longer than we will if we run them 24 hours a day on multiple shifts at a time. So that kind of explains the 2 different things on our budget request. And like Chief Fitch, I'll answer any questions that I can. Sergeant Brown's here; he can speak more to the failures of the radio system. If anybody has questions on that or anything else that I can answer for you.
See Council Member Easton's hand.
Thank you, Chief Deborah. Again, welcome. It's good to have you. On the radio system, when you're talking about a life or death situation, you're right. You can't have the radio fail. So I do appreciate that. Can you tell me something about the long-term cost comparison between vehicle leasing and vehicle buying? I know we discussed this once a few years ago. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. If we do this where it adds these 3 new vehicles to our fleet, again, it allows us to put an officer into a specific vehicle that he is now responsible for. At this cost of this lease program, it would cost us about $12,000 more this year if we just add 1 vehicle. And that would be the difference in our budget process, where we would spend $65,000 for 1 vehicle. This will allow us to add 3 new vehicles at the lower cost that we can spread out over I believe it's 4 years. And then we can track the maintenance and upkeep on these vehicles per officer.
And one thing I didn't include on there, excuse me, this is a lease to own, Councilmember Easton. So this is not something that we would give it back. This is a lease to own. So they're not going to go back. We'll still maintain them. And as he said, it would extend the life of the car beyond the 5 years. Right now, we're roughly informally on a vehicle replacement program of 5 years. And so I just did want to point out this is a lease to own.
I was on the phone with Round Rock Police Department this morning. They've had issued vehicles to their officers for as long as I've been in law enforcement, and they expect a life of their vehicle to last 120, 130,000 miles. At that rate, we're looking at well over 5 years, and that's the roll off that we're looking at now because of the increased mileage when officers are sharing a vehicle. A good engine isn't meant to run 24/7.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Miss Majors, am I supposed to
Oh,
call
yes. No, you're good. I'm going to encapsulate everyone. Okay, so what kind of vehicles are you thinking about on this leasing program?
We will look at both, but we're leaning toward the Ford Explorer.
Okay. Now, I guess my other question is, what do the officers think about this?
Oh, they're excited. They're excited that they would be given the responsibility and the trust from us to be responsible for their particular vehicle and the upkeep and maintenance. And we met today our entire department met today and talked about the importance of professionalism and how we present ourselves to the city and the citizens that we represent and serve. And they would be excited about this program.
Okay.
Councilmember Ty?
Would these be take-home vehicles or just at the PD?
We're looking at a policy. I don't know if you've seen our parking lot. I'm sure you've been by. We're pretty limited on where we can put vehicles. We would draft a policy with your permission that would allow them to take it home if they lived within a certain distance of the city. There are a few officers that are on call for particular reasons, and that would definitely be part of it. But if an officer lived close enough, it would make more sense for him to maintain it at his residence if it was within a certain mileage that was designated by policy.
Okay.
Any other questions for the chief?
Thanks, y'all. Thank you so much.
Okay, and next on is, again, we're still on general funds, and this is the parks. I believe we've got our Public Works Director, Sean, on the line.
Yes, good evening. Yes, increase that for the Parks Department. Portion of that is to repair, as Cynthia said earlier, are the interior lights of the family park. The three tall lights at the park, they are not working. They're old halogen lights. They need to be replaced with energy saving LED lighting and lighting that will allow brighter enhancement of the park, of the interior portion of the park. Part of that cost is about estimated at about $6,000. Other increase to the park fund is that in previous years, city departments did not pay for their water. This year, each department will start paying for the water they use, and based on estimate cost for that increase for water usage for the family park is a little over $3,000, and the Veterans Park is a little over $700. And then the other increase to that is that for the fact that to maintain and supplies for the park for using weed eaters and the gas and oil for the mowers, the department will need to start paying for the supplies to maintain those units. So there's money in there to buy gas and oil to run the lawnmowers and also weed eater string and other supplies and maintenance to those units to maintain those parks. And the biggest ticket is that presented to y'all back in the earlier this year when we did our budget evaluation. Brought to you that we have a couple of mowers that they were purchased back in 2008. And currently one mower has had an engine replaced, I think 4 times now. And we just recently had another one that lost a cylinder. We had to have it replaced because we can't operate with just one mower. But again, these mowers are well out of date and they do need to be replaced. If not, we'll just keep on spending money on mowers that are not valued to what the replacement repairs are to those units. And so that is what we are requesting for the Parks Department. Any questions?
Okay, seeing no hands, we don't have, you'll notice that the water wastewater fund is noticeably absent. And the reason for that, as a reminder, just with the action that the council took at the last meeting, with moving forward with a revenue bond for the water wastewater treatment plant improvements. And also the equipment needs that we had talked about during the budget workshop as well, and moving forward with the tax note on the water wastewater side. So those were pretty much the big ticket items on the water wastewater side. So those are covered with those, and that's why you don't see those requests here. Councilmember Eaton?
Thank you, Cynthia. Mr. Dinsmore, thank you very much. When you say utility costs, you're talking about all the utilities, water, electricity, gas, etc., right?
Yes, sir. The in the past for the Eternal Flame and electricity, we average about $171 per month on average for 6 months. So that, yes, that is what it is electrical, gas, and water usage. And like I said, in the past, we only budgeted for electricity and gas. This year, we are now including the usage of water.
So to go into a little bit more detail on that, Councilmember Eason, is we haven't been showing, when we look at the cost, again, water and wastewater is an enterprise function. And so we want to be able to track all the uses of that water. And so I know it might seem somewhat counterintuitive, but we do need to show that cost even when the city is using it. And so you'll see in every line item, I mean, admin, fire, even public works, parks, the addition of that water charge. And the public works director, Dinsmore, has calculated that for each department. And so for parks, that is part of the reason for the increase, to the tune of about, did you say $3,000?
Overall for total for the parks and the water is roughly $4,000 total.
Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, really, what out of these, I think what, I'll speak in department heads, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you look back at, for example, the fire department, I think the priority for him is the shift work, again, to improve those response times. And for PD, the priority, Chief Deborah, are you still on here?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you had to prioritize these, how would you prioritize the vehicle leasing first or the new radios first?
I would prioritize the radios.
Okay. And public works, Sean, how would you prioritize these needs?
Well, because those are necessary maintenance costs, I believe that we have to, pay for those electric and gas and water, and also we have to pay for repairs to a broken unit. So my priority is that one mower. The other one's just the budget increase due to the fact that we have to pay for that increased cost.
Understood. So council members, what I'm looking for is kind of your perspective on just kind of some consensus on what your priorities are, because, going back to the drawing board, we might have to, I'm going to have to cut some items. So I kind of want to know what is your priority before I do that. Just as a reminder, this is 322,000 is the total of, all the new items. So if you can give me an idea, that would be helpful. Councilmember Ty.
So I believe that anything that's life safety would be a priority. So the shift work, I would think that would be a priority because it's life safety for people that they're responding to. And for the police department, I would think that the radios would be a priority because that's life safety for those officers out in the field. That's for sure. Anything life safety is a priority to me.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with Michelle on that. So, I mean, what do we need the tall lights right now? I mean, what are you asking, like something else that we can take away?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to have to be making choices. So, I mean, if I can get a general idea of what your priorities are, let me go back and see what I can do and, see where we're at. And when I bring it back to you guys, then, we can go from there. And also when we get the final numbers, every appraisal district does it a little bit differently. So some in the preliminary numbers, they, anyway, so you never know. It could go up, it could go down as far as what that final number might look like. So, again, this just helps me go back to the board with all the requests and bring back to you a little bit closer of a balanced budget.
Thank you, Cynthia. Is there anything else, or should we move on to the next item? It is now 7:32 p.m. and we're doing good.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear everything that Michelle said. May I have the floor?
Sure. I can't see anything but Cynthia's screen, but Cynthia, if somebody's got their hand up, go for it.
Okay. Councilmember Easton.
Thank you. Michelle, I apologize. I didn't hear everything you said. You made comments about life safety. Okay, I agree with you. I know that with the radios for the police department, I also know that when we're talking about reducing the response time for the fire department, that also is life safety. Okay, because you get that EMS to somebody in need, that can save lives. You get the fire department responding to a structure fire faster. I've heard Chief Fitch make some reference to how much fire expands per minute. Minutes really do count. So I believe the shift work, the shift pay with the fire department is a very high priority, and the radios. So if I repeated what you said, Michelle, I apologize.
Okay. Councilmember McCabe.
Can you go back to the slide for the fire department real quick? So basically the fire department, the police department, and public works is really the only ones that have choices, right? Because as far as administrative, and Parks and Rec, those are pretty much, they have to have it because of cost increase, correct?
Right. Well, yeah. And they didn't have, I mean, court didn't have any, they went down, administration. I mean, I didn't really put anything in there other than, I was pointing out the city hall lease because if you remember the 2 budget seasons ago, you all paid for 2 years worth of the lease. And so the only thing that was, there was a minimal amount included in the city hall lease last year, because we were thinking we were going to be going to the, potentially the municipal complex. So that's why you see that increase this year over last year. But yes, the short answer is yes.
Okay. And real quick on the public works one, can you explain again the $10,000 demo that they're wanting to add? What exactly is that?
That is, we want to be prepared if we do have something like a front street. Okay, we have that 150 Front Street and we go through the, there's 2 different ways you can go through it. A normal process, I'm going to say, and that would be, we just passed that updated the substandard building process. And so that would be, once we go through that process, then we would go ahead and the city would take on the responsibility to demo that property, and to demo a property takes money. So approximately $8,000. And then we would put a lien on that property, and then recoup it somewhere down the line. But that way we've got it up front to get it out of there. If that makes sense. So in case there's another property that we want to look at, and I think there's a couple, of course, we'd like to get compliance before that happens, but if we don't, then we're prepared to be able to take action, as it seems like the council has been interested in doing.
So based on what we know now about any substandard buildings and our long range or short range master plan that we have, do you see a immediate need for that in the next 6 to 12 months?
I think there's one or two, one property in particular I'm thinking of, but there could be, we're, I don't know, a heartbeat away from another one. So I think, yeah, I think there is one on the book, potentially.
Okay. But so then, yeah, I'm with Michelle and Sam so far. As far as the shift work, they definitely need that. The police department definitely needs the radios. I think the fire department also needs the radios and the pagers. I know that they put their equipment down at second priority, but I still think that they definitely need those for the communication process as well. So, but yeah, I know we all need everything, and it's hard to cut stuff. So.
Okay. Okay. Duly noted. Council member Majors.
Riding along with the police before we hired the chief, that they do need the radios. So like I've already said and agreed with Michelle, they do need the radios. They do need a lot more than the radios. So when we get to the budget time, that was one. Yes, to Josh, since I am the one that's been adamant about the substandard and cleaning up. And so yes, with removing the substandard and the lien on the properties. So yes, we are a couple of heartbeats away from removing those. So in listening to Fitch, that might be, I'm intrigued about everything he had to say tonight. So, but yes, I think those are it. So I'm glad that we are leaving for the lien on the property for removing those. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council member Ty.
How much are we having to cut off of this? How much money?
Well, it's not sure right now, but I mean, we'll have to see with the final numbers. And let me see what I can do to bring, a budget back to you. So Again, this helps to give me direction to do that, you know, and probably what I would do is maybe bring back a couple of scenarios depending on how those final budget, how the final certified values come in. If you were to do, you know, what that basically kind of flat tax rate would be, or if there would be an increase, and how much, if you did this much of an increase in the tax rate, how much more would that give you to address some of these priorities. So I'll be able to do that after July 26th, and, you know, with more definitive information for you all. Okay, I think I've gotten what I need for now to be able to go back and bring back the first look at the budget on that first meeting in July. And I think, unless there's anything else, I think we can go to the next agenda item.
Okay, then Michelle, Ty, I can't see. All I see is your screen, Cynthia, and Ashley, and you. There we go. Okay, we'll move to item I, discussion and any necessary action regarding annual review of city contracts as part of the 2021 fiscal year budget planning process. And this is Cynthia again.
Okay. Well, as you know, every year we bring to you these contracts to you. We did change the format a little bit this year. I think as I understand, normally when we're over looking at contracts, really the purpose of this is to try to make sure that we're keeping track of when contracts need to be renewed, when we might need to go back out for an RFP, you know, looking at that contract amount, for instance, like a waste connections that really probably should have been bid out before 20 years. But it was 20 years somehow before we did that. So those are the types of things we want to try to make sure that we've got this particular file and keep up with what those contracts are when they're up for renewal, and if we can go out for bid and get potentially a better price.
Do we have any questions for Cynthia on that? Well, this was a matter for discussion, and we'll move on to item J. I'm sorry, who's?
Mayor, Councilmember Eason had his hand up.
Okay, yeah. Sam?
Thank you, Shannon. Very first time I went through this process of reviewing the contracts, I was provided with a binder, fairly thick binder of all the city's contracts. And it took a very long time, but I ended up reading through all of them, and I ran across a clause with our Walnut Creek contract, and we're able to use that clause in the Walnut Creek contract in order to encourage them to increase the quality of what they were sending. So in the spirit of that, I would like for each of us to have the contracts themselves. Okay, the actual details, that nice thick, but instead of it being a nice thick binder, I'm hoping that that could all be digitized and, you know, put the whole thing on a thumb drive. That way each of us would be able to reference, you know, any contract, any clause, anything, so that when people have questions, like I look at the chart and somebody says, well, what about waste connections? Just exactly what are the details of that contract and what can we negotiate, what can't we do? And, you know, instead of having to always ask, that we would all have the access ourselves.
Sure.
So I'm not looking for anything, you know, fast, because it's going to take a long time. Okay. I realize putting that together is going to be quite time consuming. So please do not do not make this a priority. And if the rest of the council disagrees, then, well, you know, I can live without it and not end up making just requests myself.
Any comments? I'm sorry, Cynthia. Ask for what other people think. Anybody with additional comments? Ashley?
Michelle, you can go ahead of me if you have a question. So.
I don't. I was just going to say it would be interesting to know what they said, because I got the list and I'm not really exactly sure what's, you know, y'all have kind of been here before me, except maybe council member Majors. But yeah, I'd like to have knowledge of what's going on with contracts say.
Okay. We can do that.
Sam, thank you for saying that, because I looked over this one page and receiving it yesterday. I was kind of just briefly, and I'm like, is this all that we have? So thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. So I'm all in favor. So whenever you have time, Shannon, hopefully. Sorry, Shannon.
We definitely, we definitely like the idea of putting it, excuse me, on a flash drive. We're going to save a lot of trees that way.
Well, and is this going to be a living document as a contract drops off, we take it off, or if we add a new contract, or is this a whatever date y'all are able to get this done, is that what we have?
This is, as I understand it, it's been a living document. So, yeah. I mean, that's the purpose of it, is so when things drop off, they come off, and then we put the new ones on there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. That's definitely what we do.
Okay. Anybody else? Cynthia, now y'all have something to do. I'm sure you were looking forward to that, you know. Okay, we're moving on to K, discussion and any necessary actions regarding presentations of a list of city inventoried assets as required by section 1.20.045. Shannon, this shows you as the action.
Okay, it's actually not agenda item K, it's J.
J, right.
You confused me a little bit. So, yes, every year we are supposed to bring the inventory list to council, and I put in your agenda commentary what it actually says in the code. So before you have the inventory for each department. If you have any questions, please let us know. Some of the department heads might still be here, and if not, we can ask those questions to them and get the answers to you. But other than that, we just need to make sure that you accept the inventory list.
Shannon, I noticed on there, I don't remember who it was, but somebody listed a tape dispenser. Do we go into that much detail, or is there a threshold?
That was City Hall, and we have been building off of the previous list. So in the past, we have listed those, so we've continued to those. If you would like to add a threshold, that is something that would be council's decision.
Any comments? So we'll leave the tape dispenser in place. Does anybody have anything relative to inventory or anything before? Okay, Josh, your hand, I can see it now.
Mr. Shannon, does that mean you need a motion to accept this?
Yes, please.
You got it.
Thank you.
And do we have a second?
Councilmember Majors.
Ashley, were you wanting to speak, or are you seconding? Just, okay, so we have a
second. There was something, it was a police inventory, but it was about their guns, but it's okay. I'll go ahead and second.
Okay, Shannon?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem McCabe?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Ty?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Priest?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Eason?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Majors?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All righty, so now we move on to item K as in K. Discussion and any necessary action regarding an amendment to the quorum contract. City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Council, you all have that information in your packet. As you know, you previously selected an architect, and that's quorum for the design of the municipal complex bond that was held in 2020, as well as amending the contract to include the fire department facade and the community center upgrades. Most of the design has been paid for, and that's approximately $200,000, about $150,000 for the school portion of that design, and then the amendment was for the fire department facade and community center was approximately $50,000 for a total of $200,000. So the council made the decision to roll that civil engineering and the final documents of the bidding, negotiation, construction services into the bond after the election, so that you weren't out those additional funds. And then, they went to a vote and it did not pass. So during the May 22nd meeting, you all approved the pursuit of a general obligation bond for the municipal campus with revisions, and namely removing that facade and really doing the code updates to fire and public works, and then finishing out the downtown 105 First Street building property as the shell. So in the interest of time and recognizing that procuring an architecture professional services entails identifying the best qualified, Quorum has previously been identified as the best qualified and has already performed the majority of the design work needed. And then, of course, the second step would be negotiating that proposal. So Quorum's attached proposal details the changes that council approved in advance of pursuing the GO bonds for that revised municipal campus project for November 2021. So this would facilitate the preparation for the August deadline for the bond election. A couple of notes to make would be when you're looking at, and pages aren't numbered, but when you look at the basic design services page in the proposal letter, and you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 numbered. So for the city municipal complex, the revisions, if you look B through G, those costs, again, were going to be rolled into the cost of the bond previously. So those funds have, that work has not yet happened. So the addition for the revisions now for the municipal complex or campus would be about $20,450. And then you'll see 2, 3, and 4, and those are those changes and those revisions to the project, namely the code updates in fire department, the code updates in the public works, and then the downtown 105 First Street historical building down there. So that's really what we're asking, is to go ahead and finalize this agreement with Quorum in a not to exceed for basic design services of $230,350. However, those funds would not be expended unless the bond passed. So if the bond doesn't pass, we're not out those funds. So hopefully I've explained that. We do have Carvin, of course. I've been working with Carvin. We do have Kim on the line. She is actually offered to go ahead and provide no cost revised renderings of both of the projects. so that we can kind of have a visual concept of what we're looking at for the bond of both the municipal campus, if you will, and then the 105 First Street. And that would be done over the next month or two. Again, preparing for August and getting that together on the language for the bond election, and then going into November. But no funds would be expended unless the bond. Carvin, did I leave anything out?
No, you covered it. Good job.
Okay. Mayor, you're muted.
I think she's allowing Councilmember Majors since her hand is up.
Yes, thank you.
Cynthia, okay, just to think I understood you, but how much, or did you say have we paid anything to date to Quorum, or do we owe them any money?
We don't owe them money. We have paid $200,000 to date, and that was for the prior municipal complex design.
Okay, so we have paid them $200,000.
Yes.
But if as of right now, if we will not, if the bond does not pass, we will not pay them any money. So
correct.
But she will do it, give the drawing, the renderings and everything going forward. Okay.
Yeah. And she is, I believe, Kim Dowdy is on the line if anybody has any questions.
Kim,
I am here, Cynthia.
Okay.
Kim, have you done any projects like this, any scope of projects like this before?
For City Hall renovations?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We have. We have worked with the city of Lake Worth. We have worked with the Refugio and a couple others, as well as other. We have done many renovations. We work with municipalities all over the state of Texas. So since the 2006, this is all working with municipalities is all I have done, as well as my partner has done it for well over 30 years.
Anyone else with any more questions? We've got Kim sitting here, so don't be bashful. Ask anything you'd like to ask. Josh?
Thank you. Kim, I know we're changing things up on you and going inside the buildings instead of doing the facade on the fire department. So I appreciate you offering up your services free of charge for those drawings. Would you sit down with Chief Fitch and possibly the city staff to discuss what they're looking at in the fire department? Maybe what kind of, I know we're mostly doing code updates, but what kind of designs or whatnot, and exactly how far we want to go on City Hall?
Absolutely. Yes. We have already had some preliminary discussions with staff for City Halls on, as you guys described before, where to cut the fats. So we do have some ideas of how to move forward. That's how we were able to put our proposal together. But we will continue to sit down and work with staff, council, whoever we need to work with to discuss how to trim the budget for City Hall and make adjustments for fire, as well as the renovated historic building downtown.
So far, what kind of things have you seen that we could be able to trim out of that to bring that cost down a little bit?
Some of the areas that we looked at in PD, we have individual offices. We talked about opening that up to an open concept and going in with cubicles, removing some of the plumbing, as well as for the area adjacent to the permitting area. Another area would be the council chambers. We were leveling out the floors in that space. So it was going to be a large budget to add that leveled floor because it's removing all the wood floors. I know Councilwoman Majors was concerned about removing all the wood floors. We would leave that completely sloped, but we would have to make it completely accessible for that space. So, and also the fire riser room, and working with the inspector Jimmy Ross, looks like we can omit the fire riser, fire suppression for that building. So that would be an additional savings. As well as, oh, go ahead.
Well, I would, the not as much concrete in the back.
Yes. We could go with more of a gravel base on that instead of all the concrete or asphalt. That would cut the cost.
We would still have concrete in the front for the citizens that do business at the campus.
That's correct, as well as a concrete fire lane.
Yeah.
Around the full perimeter of the building.
And what would you do to the back of the building that leaks so often? Through the bricks and stuff there.
That for the city hall portion, the school?
And for the no, for the old city hall on First Street.
We'll just have to take a look at that, Mayor. That has not been brought up. We've just did a quick tour. So we will do a full assessment of that building. We will have to come in and have a geotech report done so we know what type of foundation to come up with, and then we will just reassess the full masonry, see what we can come back and fix. I'm sure we'll have to just repoint most of the brick on the building, but that will bring everything up to a nice tight building.
Okay, and Cynthia, I'm not trying to be negative. I personally do not think we need to do anything with that building at this time. We're going to do good enough to get a bond through for subtract whatever that amount is from the bond amount, and let's see what happens, because I don't think people are going to want to spend money for something we're going to use down the road. My personal opinion. Ashley?
I personally, I'm still not in favor for it, but, with the police on the opposite side of the municipal complex, I just don't think it's in the fit for it. So, I just don't think so. What, police chief, are you still on the line? So police chief, or even Fitch, what, we haven't asked them if what they think, because it's on the opposite side, so they have to go around. Let me see.
Well, one thing I will say, I mean, Chief Fitch was involved in the original design, while Chief Beavis wasn't. I have briefly talked with him about this, but this is his first with his fourth day here.
Right.
So in budget, and we briefly talked about this, but I'll definitely be getting with him. He hadn't had I hate to put him on the spot because he hadn't had a lot of time to actually look at this point.
Right. This is a lot to put on him. So, I mean, I don't think, my glasses are really involved. I think this is a lot to throw at him on the first week.
Well, in my former career, I've been through a new build of a police department and the growing pains associated with that, as well as when you move in and you go, we didn't really account for this. So I've been through that process before, as well as the process of adding on because of what you didn't plan for at the initial stage. So yes, I do have some experience with that.
Which I think is great. That's what we're planning. And so.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't think right now, that I think maybe before, not to throw you in. Just welcome to the team. Come on.
Hey, I'm happy to be here either way.
Hey, we're excited. We're excited to have you here. So,
yes, ma'am.
But
Mayor, if I could jump in, the agenda item is actually only approval of the architect. You really haven't posted a discussion of the design or the other criterias. So we're kind of
okay.
wondering a little.
All right. Well, what I was going to say for the approval of the architect, because I'm not happy with it. So I guess, and I apologize to Mr. Hernandez. I'm not getting too off track, but I think if we approve quorum this quickly again, the bond didn't pass prior, and we're about to have so many increases, and if I was the one that wasn't voting because I was a citizen, and I think we need to stop. And we got this 3 hours, this contract 3 hours before our meeting today. I don't think we are representing the citizens well, then, because I had to rush to look over this, and I don't know. So if you're choosing to go with quorum, when they gave this info, as well as the city gave this info to us 3 hours prior to our meeting, you're not doing or serving the citizens to the best of the ability. We need to table this until the next meeting. Is all I have to say, because I haven't looked at this so I asked to table it, and we can go with it. To try to get this to pass, guys. I know I'm not in favor of the municipal complex. I'm not in favor of quorum. So I say to table it to maybe help it out. But
Do I hear anyone else that wants to table it? We can take a vote. Ashley, you want to make a motion that we table it?
I make a motion we table it.
And do I hear a second? Okay, Sam, you had your hand up. Sam, you're muted.
I'm waiting to find out if someone seconds Ashley's motion or not.
No, sir, we had no second.
So
Were
you're
you
saying
wanting?
it's dying for a lack of a motion?
It did.
Lack of a second?
I didn't hear you, Sam.
I believe we
No.
need to acknowledge that motion has died for lack of a second before we can go to another motion.
Yeah, we did that.
Oh, I missed our acknowledging that. I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and accept this contract.
So
Except what? The contract or the amendment?
Just to be clear, it's really to authorize the city administrator to negotiate with quorum a final contract.
Thank you, Carvin. That's exactly what my motion should be and is.
Okay, so Sam has made the motion. That's super good. Do we have a second?
And I would just, for clarification, consistent with the directions that you gave the city administrator at the May 27, 2021 meeting regarding both the municipal complex and the
Well then, yes, Carvin.
old city hall.
Please add that to my motion also. Thank you.
well, and also the not to exceed amount of $230,350 as we discussed.
Okay, Sam, I'm confused. I think I know what Sam's motion. Let's repeat it, Sam, and then we'll all know what we're doing.
If you look at the recommendation, Councilmember Eason on the agenda commentary, that would be the motion.
Would you like me to read the recommendation on page 38 of the supplement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Authorize the city administrator to negotiate and execute an agreement with quorum in the amount not to exceed $230,350 to complete the basic design services for the proposed revisions to the municipal complex and Old City Hall as approved by the City Council at its May 27, 2021 meeting.
Okay, that's Sam's motion. Do I hear a second? Elaine seconded. Okay, Shannon, your turn.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor Pro Tem McCabe.
So I'd like to explain my decision real quick, and that by doing this and renegotiating, we're looking at possibly paying only an extra estimated $20,000 to be able to complete the design phase of this. And that's only dependent upon the passing of the bond. If we were to restart this process, it would extend the timeout for when we'd be able to get this done. And not only that, then we'd have to pay another estimated $200,000 for another company to come in and do what is already done. So it makes more financial sense to go with what we have, make some small changes, than to waste another $200,000. That's being fiscally irresponsible. So I vote aye on this.
Okay, we have, okay, go ahead, Shannon. Keep going.
Councilmember Ty.
Aye.
Councilmember Priest.
Aye.
Councilmember Eason.
Aye.
Councilmember Majors.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay, now we're going to move on down to item L is in Lucy. Discussion and any necessary action regarding the designation of a safe space, including signage. This is Mayor Pro Tem McCabe. And Josh, would you please define safe space and then go from there?
Yes, thank you. So in talking with some citizens, they brought this up to me while visiting another town. A safe space is a place for people to exchange items or meet in public. That way they feel safe. And with a lot of what we do these days, people are buying off of Facebook or off the internet, and they're meeting someone in maybe Walmart parking lot or other places. And I know we've heard all over the news that these kinds of deals are bad. Somebody's ended up injured, kidnapped, whatever. So if we can maybe make a safe local place in town for people to have the opportunity to exchange such items, or possibly, separated families that are swapping off kids for the weekend, something like that. So I wanted to see what y'all thought on that. And then after talking with the staff as well, my suggestion maybe would be for Cynthia to work with Chief Beavis. And since this is normally located around the police department, since they're usually the safest place in town, maybe see what their recommendations are for such a type place.
I would certainly love to meet with you and discuss that, because I think safe zones, I think we refer to them as safe zones, are very valuable, but there is some infrastructure and some things we would need to put in place to make it happen. But I'd love to meet with you and talk about that.
So can we just leave this with you, Josh, to find a time where you could meet with the police chief, and then you, Josh, could bring it back to Cynthia? Would that work for y'all guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Josh? Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
that works.
All right. So we'll move this down the line, and it may be back on in the next council meeting or two. Okay. Item M is discussion and any necessary action regarding public use for seniors of the senior center building as the city transitions from state mandated COVID restrictions. And this was mine. Is there any short fuse that we could make temporarily? Because I know if the bond passes, the bulldozer comes after that building. But on the interim, that we could let our seniors meet in probably what is a safer place than what they're doing now. Is there anything we can do to that building? I think it needs what do you call them, grab bars in the bathrooms and exit signs. Would that be sufficient to allow the seniors to continue using it as long as they didn't cook meals? Because I understand there's a question about the Vent-A-Hood.
Can we move money around in the budget to pay for it? That seems like it's a couple of $100 to get it up to date. So, I mean,
Yeah, Michelle has a question.
I thought that the ADA requirements in the bathroom were that the door was too narrow and they couldn't get, it needs to be a specific area in the bathroom, not necessarily there's grab rails. Am I correct, or am I thinking?
At one point in time, the restroom doors have been extended. There's a 36-inch door going into the restroom. There's kind of a vestibule outside, and it's enormous opening. Now, I don't know. I don't have in front of me. Sean, are you still with us? Sean?
Yes, I'll have to go back and look exactly what it is. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I know there was some. I believe that the width was not exactly 36, so there would be some trim that we had taken off, and then we had to do further measurements to just get clarification on the radius within inside that bathroom and the distance between the toilet and the sink. And so there'll be. I just had to go back and look at the recommendation based off the inspection that was done by our third-party inspector.
And we're not saying each and everything that the inspector pointed out. Just, is there any way we could get by with a few months of using it? As y'all know, Rome doesn't have any community rooms or anything to use.
Well, let me address a couple of the questions that came up about the budget and just some clarification for staff. Of course, however council wants to proceed is how we'll proceed. But, you know, I guess from staff's perspective, I was under the impression that is right now it's really more about COVID, and we're kind of transitioning from COVID, and seniors are the vulnerable population. So we do, obviously there's some deficiencies in the building itself, but they had been in it before, so absent COVID, they could be in it again. Now, as far as doing some minor upgrades, depending on what they are, we might be able to find some money in our building maintenance line item, but certainly not for an ADA compliance restroom. I mean, exit signs and some of those other minor things we probably could get done. So just want to be clear about that. And if it's just, you know, obviously we've got the reports from our inspector, and we've identified code items where we're not compliant in a lot of our facilities. But of course, we've still got PD in that facility. We've still got Public Works in their facility. We've still got the fire department in their facility. And, you know, they don't have anywhere else to go. Although we've got, you know, potentially a solution on the horizon. So the bottom line is, yes, there's a little bit of money to do some things, but staff's really, I mean, it's really up to you on when we reopen that building for use.
Sam, you're muted, Sam.
Thank you. I know that last week the seniors met on Friday out at
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Last Friday, the seniors met out at in the pavilion at the family park. They're planning on meeting tomorrow at the family park, where you bring your own lunch. I know that I believe it was Mrs. Priest that spoke with the Chisholm Church, and again, this is third hand that I'm going to say it, so I'd like for Elaine to correct me here. That they may be able to meet there at the Chisholm Church on Wednesdays and actually use their facilities that are all completely compliant and up to code. I know that Tommy has been talking with Marie about using that facility, and I think that's a win-win. So I'm thinking we need to let the seniors exhaust their options before we start trying to make some kind of commitment to support them.
Elaine, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add a couple of things to that. What the churches, Chisholm Church has said that they would do would, open their that facility to the seniors should they want to do that. And what they really wanted to do was sit down and talk to representatives of the senior group. And of course, I would love to see Marie be a part of that, considering all of her background in this particular matter, and see, what they could work out. On the other hand, I know that there is a comfort level with the place where they've been meeting, and I understand that, and so I do think that that we need to do two things. One is to look at what would be the cost to make some short-term improvements, so that if the seniors chose that they wanted to go back to the original building where they've been meeting, and they could do that safely. I'm all about the safety thing. If they could do that, if that's what they choose to do, or if they want to look at their options and sit down and visit with the pastor of the church who's willing for them to meet there, and then look at their options. But I hesitate to make a decision on their behalf. I think that we all know that it's a possibility in a few months that maybe that building is not the place where they would end up, that they may have a renovated, newer, better place for them to meet in the future, which I would love that, as far as, that they would be safe. But I really think that it's a decision in part for a few of the seniors that have been involved for a long time to make that call and make that request. But I think we need to look at the cost to the city if they were to want to go back to the original building for a short-term basis. And then if they want to give the pastor an opportunity to sit down, visit with them, look at what their options would be, then I'd like for them to do that as well. But ultimately, I don't think the city council can make that decision for them entirely. I think we need some input from the group that's been doing that for a long time. I think they deserve that respect.
And I have been contacted by some of them, Marie, one of them, see if you can get us back in the senior building, basically. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I'm not speaking out of turn, Elaine, and I appreciate the offer. A lot of them do not want to get involved with a religious group. Now, I don't think that was the intent that you came forth with. It was just a place to meet, you know what I'm saying? But I'm hearing two things. And I said, well, I'll ask if the city would consider it. And if y'all guys don't feel comfortable with it, or I could ask Sean to give me a short list of where we would be safe if we went back into the senior building. And it could be, I do not know, seniors have a little money. They might, pay for an exit sign or a grab bar or whatever.
Well, I think the community as a whole wants to be offer positive support. I think that from a city's liability situation, we just have to be careful knowing what we know about the condition of our buildings. And, we just, as much as we want to embrace them and we want them to be back where they want to be, we do have the obligation as a city council to make sure that what action we take, that it will be safe and we won't be endangering anybody. And that's been my concern all along is, what does that entail? So if we could just maybe table this one time. I'm not generally in favor of tabling things when we need to take action, but so that Mr. Dinsmore has a chance to look back at that list and see what that plan might be to be able to get them back in there.
Sean, would that work for you? We may have lost Sean.
No, he's there.
I think I partially heard what she to look at what the cost is and come back to y'all about what the cost to get that up and running.
Yeah, just on a bare bones, not
yes.
The whole.
Yeah, I'll get.
We don't want it to be unsafe, as Elaine has mentioned, but if we could get it kind of like what they were doing before and safe. And I understand last time y'all were there, and that may be a major problem. You could not get into the pantry where the water heater is. So if and when you look at it, holler at me and I can get us a key to that pantry.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get with Cynthia and then our third party to make sure that we're just compliant with everything, and then we'll get an estimated cost and get those items repaired and report back to y'all.
Okay, appreciate it. And all right, Josh has got his hand up before we go on. Yes, Josh.
I know on this topic, we keep talking about the seniors, but reading over it, we're talking about public use. So we got to remember that, if we open this up to the seniors, we have to open it up to everyone. So whether it's baby showers or wedding rehearsals or anything like that. So we've got to look at we got to look at making sure it's not just ADA compliant for the seniors, but we got to make sure that it's compliant for any public use.
So what are you suggesting, that Sean not give us anything, or?
No, I'm saying when Sean goes to look at that, we just need to keep an open mind of not just the ADA stuff, but making sure it's compliant for any and all public use. So we got to make sure that everybody's going to be safe in there.
Sure.
I know we keep talking the whole time on the seniors. I just want to make sure everybody's
right.
We're talking public use here, not just senior only use.
An ordinance or something that says, seniors are using it. If you want to come in for a baby shower or whatever, these are the fees and the conditions. So we'd have to more or less conform to that.
Yeah, anything that I'll do, I'll make sure that's compliant for any usage.
Okay, Sean, we would really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to Kate. It is 8:27, the very last item. This N is in Nancy. Discussion and any necessary action regarding assigning the mayor and the council members city email addresses. And this came from, I thought the word was hacked, and I guess I'm getting too old. It's called social engineer. Somebody put together an email address that kind of appeared like it was mine. And a lot of you people sitting here got copies of it. Sam came back first, or I didn't even know it was going out. And I had asked Sam, it appeared, to buy me some gift cards, and I'd tell him the stores and denominations. Sam came back and said, gosh, you're being mysterious, blah, blah, blah. So then the chase was on to see what's going on. As we talked to IT people around the area, the city of Rome has chosen not to use a server and establish email addresses for all the council or myself. Is it being costly? Had what I'm hearing, and certainly Sam, I'm not an IT person and I know some of y'all are, is that if the city had had the emails under a server, that it would have been better protected, although they didn't literally change my email. So I don't know if that's a true statement or not, but what are y'all's guys' feelings on this?
I think this is let's start off on the simple case of protecting your own email. That's not going to matter. It's something that you have to do personally, and cybersecurity type training that every individual has. Whether it's a city email or Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail, protecting your own password and protecting that is all up to you. I know that once you get a company provided email, then you're actually representing the cybersecurity issues of the company. And I know that, for example, my occupation lends an expertise where I could send out some phishing software, phishing email to any one of you. And if you were on the city website, on the city server, and I was able to get you to click on something, then all of a sudden I can start getting access to that city server. And the vulnerability to the city goes up quite a bit. Okay, but if you've got a Gmail account or a Yahoo account or something like that, then the only vulnerability that exists would be whatever you have in your own personal email account. And because Gmail and Yahoo provide the firewalls and the protection of everyone else on their servers. So if we were going to start opening it up, we would have to go into some extensive cybersecurity training, and we'd have to make certain everybody had sufficient discipline in order to keep track of. I think we're opening up a can of worms that we just don't want to open up.
And it's just it's a question. My email was never hit. This was a made up email that appeared to be coming from me. I didn't do, in essence, I protected my own email, or am protecting it, I hope,
And so continue to use that same email address and you'll be just as effective as you have been. I think just leave things the way they are.
Okay, and Ashley, did you have a comment?
I just think the way that we're growing, and since you think that, I just think with her being the mayor of the city and having a Yahoo email address, I think that she needs to be a little bit more professional and have maybe this city, mayor. But it's my personal opinion. But instead of just a Yahoo.
Yes, Elaine.
I just want to be sure I understood what Sam just said. So what you described is that if we had any or all of us had an email address that originates with the city server, that if there were improprieties that happened, that really the risk then would be to the city and its security of its own server. Whereas by not having those email addresses that are within the city system, then the city is not as at risk. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So in order to, it is just an extra step to keep the city safe. It's talking cyber safe.
That is correct.
Ashley.
Okay, I just want to be sure I understood that.
Whenever I looked into, and I don't know our IT person, but whenever I looked into another IT person for if Joanne to help her with her email to see to make sure it wasn't going to send out to anybody else, they said that they could, you know, say if it was for the city or if it was just for her and I, or if anybody else that wanted it, they would do phishing. And, you know, that's what the company that we should have would do it, but I don't know. You know, I just think that Joanne, especially, hey, we're getting a $5 million municipal complex, the mayor should have, instead of, you know, Joanne Wilson, Mayor Yahoo, you know, email. But I don't know, after speaking to an IT, you know, that does, you know, work all over the, you know, Decatur, everywhere else, and what they were telling us, that I think that we need it. But so I just think it's more professional than her having a Yahoo and a Gmail account, because she would be under the IT of what the city has, because it's documents that is financial information that you and I don't even know, because it's her and Cynthia passing it back and forth. If it's rolling V, if it's water, if it's, you know, stuff that we talk in executive session, that's what I think. But
Well,
I mean,
maybe,
email, it's $8.25 to have her to add to the plan that they already have just for the mayor. So that's if y'all want to add her. I think it'd be a good idea.
Sam, I think Michelle had her hand up first.
I was
Yes,
just going to ask how much it was, but it sounds like Council Member Majors just answered that. So it's $8.
okay.
Well,
It's
it's
$8 to put some.
It's $8.25 per month. So times, if
Sam,
we're doing 6, then it would be, you know, that would be the math.
8 times 6. Okay.
Sam.
This is all part of the can of worms that I think we just brought up. Ashley just mentioned sensitive information. Now that once we start talking about the city email, the city servers, we're now going to start talking about the sensitive information that's maintained on those servers, personal information about each individual, you know, our citizens. I know that I've dealt with cybersecurity my whole career, and protecting people's personal information. We may want to take this opportunity to start developing some cybersecurity policies about who has access to city laptops, desktops, servers, even if they get moved, that we don't allow, you know, brothers, sisters, wives, husbands, you know, children, parents, whatever, access to that equipment at any time for any reason. When we start looking at the movement of data, we may want to start instituting for city emails, start instituting filters to start examining, you know, put in some software to examine all of the attachments that are on every email. Start, because like, for one example, I've dealt with filters that if you ever have a 9-digit number that's grouped in a 3, a 2, and a 4, then that email can't go anywhere because that's potentially a social security number. So I think we're opening up a pretty large can of worms here with cybersecurity. I know that, or I believe that Cynthia has instituted some training programs on cybersecurity for all employees, as to how we're going to protect all of the sensitive information that's maintained on those servers. I know that I've been able to use my account for quite a while, and it's not been on the city server, and I prefer it that way.
Well, and I'm not on the city server, and one of the things they mentioned that the city might want to put the mayor and the council on a separate server, not to have access to everything else. Hey, let's table this for another time and date because we're going to go we're already over 2.5 hours and we have executive session to go into. So let's stop this conversation and go into executive session. And it is 8:38 right now. We will go from here to executive session.
If you would, Mayor, go ahead and mention the section numbers there on O, P, Q, and R. If you'll announce those to the public that we're going into executive session under Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.087.
And so we're going into executive session with the numbers that Carvin just gave us. So it is 8:39 p.m. We will take a 2-minute break and go right to executive session. And this meeting is closed. We'll resume after executive session.